What's poppin', guys, and welcome back. As you can see, we are far, far away from our original starter base out here in a jungle biome. If you're wondering why we're all the way out here, the answer is pretty simple. I really needed a whole lot of resources from the jungle in order to continue with our many projects. First and foremost, it's definitely great to be able to add another wood type to our ever-growing collection of different wood types. That should be 5 now, with the addition of jungle wood. Dark vines. And if you look over there, you can see the other thing we need. A whole lot of bamboo. Okay, we good. This stuff is great, folks. It's going to be great for smelting. It's going to be great for making scaffolding. It's going to be great for building with. Ooh, wow, look at this cave. Oh, hi, buddy. Ooh, okay. Wow, come for the bamboo, stay for the lush cave, apparently. That is going to be very exciting. Not you, necessarily, but the rest of the cave is. We'll get back to that in a minute. I came here for the bamboo, and the bamboo is what we will be acquiring. Oh yeah, and cocoa beans. Definitely cannot forget about the cocoa beans. Brown dye is a surprisingly important dye color. I find that there's a lot of use for brown concrete powder in pathways and like dirt roads and stuff like that. Right, with all that resource gathering out of the way, let's take a look at what appears to be a lush cave down here. I have done a little bit of looking for lush caves previously in this world, and I have admittedly not found any. So this is going to be a really great way of getting a bunch of new different kinds of blocks that, oh hi! As I was saying, before I was rudely interrupted, this is going to be a great way of getting more resources like glowberries. I do want some of those, spore blossoms, yes, those. I remember names once in a while, guys. Okay, can I pick up the spore blossom without silk touch? I can! Alright. Ooh, okay, this cave does look rather enticing. I would love to be able to find some more diamonds down here, but I don't have that many torches. Alright, with our inventory full of various jungle things, I think it is just about time that we head back to our starter base, and on the way, let's discuss our agenda for today. You guys know how, like, when most Minecraft players first go into the Nether, they make this, like, cobblestone cube around their Nether portal to, you know, protect themselves from ghasts and piglins and all that kind of stuff. I want to take the same concept of like an initial Nether fortress or Nether hub and just really ramp it up and have all sorts of different tunnels and tubes going into different places in the Nether, and it kind of serving as like our central midpoint. That way we can easily expand our Nether hub with future projects in later videos. And on top of that, we are going to be making a moss farm, but not just any old moss farm. I want to make a steampunk inspired moss factory, just like the idea with the Nether hub, serving as like a starting point for future projects. I want this moss factory to be like a nucleus where all of our additional farms and stuff are going to be planted down in this like really cool steampunk factory like industrial area. So yeah, that's what I've got in mind for today's video. Haha, there we are. Home sweet home, folks. We are almost there. Okay, we are back at the starter base, and there's been a few changes around here, so let's run through those things really quick. First of all, you probably noticed this already, but I put down our bamboo that we had just collected on our jungle expedition. Of course, we're definitely going to be making a redstone automatic bamboo farm at some point in the future, but for now, this manual farm is going to be just fine. I mean, it's as simple can get, right? You know, you wait for the bamboo to grow, you thwack it with your sword, and there you go, you get your bamboo. Over here, we've got our cocoa beans growing very nicely on their little jungle logs. We don't need lots of brown dye right now, so just a little bit is okay. And in very important news, oftentimes when I want to do some like, you know, off-camera resource gathering or grinding or something, I usually go caving. So that has yielded quite a few things. I've gotten a crazy amount of copper, which we can look at over here. Yeah, I'm really piling on the copper, which will be useful shortly. But more to the point, I have finally been able to acquire a Fortune 3 pick and a Silk Touch pick. That's right, we got Fortunate Sun over here, Fortune 3, Unbreaking 3, Efficiency 5, and the Pilk Touch Sickaxe with Unbreaking 3, Silk Touch, and Efficiency 4. I cannot tell you how happy I am to have both of these bad boys in my hands. We are gonna get so many resources, guys. You are not gonna believe it. And yeah, that's where all my levels went. Anyways, let's get back on track with our project. Over here, way at the edge of our farmland, if you remember, we have this cool little path going down this way, but we also have this interesting little hole in the ground, which is actually the beginning of a ravine, I think. It opens up into this really interesting cave down here, which I did my best to try and light up and did a little bit of caving down in off camera. But more importantly, I think this would be a really great spot for our nether portal. I'm thinking that we can have this like half buried, submerged in the ground, old ruined nether portal right about here, and we'd have a pathway coming along this way up out of the ground. It would basically just like wind its way over this way, eventually connecting itself over to our farmland, and when you'd be leaving the portal, you would get this really great view of the farm, our starter base, and our enchanting tower, and all of that lovely stuff over here. So yeah, with all of that stuff being said, let's get right into our first time lapse of the video and get this portal area constructed. And actually, guys, we're going to be doing a bit of a talking time lapse. So as I mentioned before, I've been doing a whole lot of caving, and one thing that I think is the single biggest change about like the mining and caving experience is that I run out of torches literally every single time I go caving. It is really insane. I mean, like, everything is bigger, there's more ores to find. When you're down on the deep slate level, you can find diamonds above you, below you, all around you. It's a fun change, don't get me wrong. I just find myself running out of torches like 20 minutes into a caving trip and just crawling around in the caves in the pitch black, desperately trying to find some extra diamond ores before I call it a day and head back up to the surface. It's something that I still definitely have to take some time getting used to, but I think is a really unique change, and it definitely changes the caving experience, which is a welcome change after all this time of caving being pretty much exactly the same for like a decade now. What did you think, guys? I think this one turned out pretty good. The pathway leading up to it is looking pretty nice, and once you round the corner, you are greeted with this really cool view of this almost like egg-shaped portal. Didn't intend for it to come out that way, it just kinda did. Now, I know this is pretty heavy on the detail between the tuff and the cobblestone, which are very messy blocks, and of course all the additional things like the glow lichen, the glow berries, the hanging roots, the double layer of dirt up top, and all this other stuff, the walls, and even the portal itself. But I think the amount of detail actually works pretty well for this kind of build. Let me know what you think of this portal design down in the comments below. Alrighty guys, as night is falling around us, I think it is time to don our armor, looking real shiny there if I do say so myself, and go into the Nether for the first time. I have not been into the Nether yet in this world. As you will see when we go through the portal, we will get we need to go deeper. Okay, let's see what we got here. I also just realized that I'm not wearing any gold. This might get a little difficult, but I think we'll be okay. I am going to go ahead and reinforce my nether portal just to make absolutely sure that we don't get like, you know, sneak attacked by some ghasts or whatever. We will turn this into our nether hub shortly, don't worry. As I said before, I am brand new to the nether in this world, and I cannot wait to get my hands on all of the interesting blocks and items. This stuff is really great. Phenomenal building block. Really good source of EXP as well. If I didn't have an EXP farm, I probably would have been down here earlier. I gotta say, I'm quite happy with the spawn. We've got a nice open area, which is gonna make building pretty easy. We've got access to one of my favorite nether biomes, the warped forest right over here. Ooh, and there's a crimson forest over there too. We actually got pretty lucky with our nether spawn, I gotta say. Considering how hostile the nether normally is, I'm kind of happy that it's chill. You know, we got just the regular old nether waste biome, and we got both of the different forests nearby. I don't want to jinx it. Ooh, no. Oh boy. That was really scary. I turn around to F5 and talk to you guys about something, and some picklin comes out of nowhere and almost knocks me into the lava. Lots of land clearing later, and we have a big open space now around our portal in the nether, and we've got a whole ton of resources moved into our tiny little dinky nether hut that I showed off previously. We've got a whole bunch of deep slate, which is going to be the main building block of our nether hub, a good bit of quartz and glowstone, which are both going to be very useful in the ceiling and in the floor respectively. And last but not least, we've got some miscellaneous blocks over here, like obsidian, chains, some glass, and other stuff. And with all that talking out of the way, let's get right into our time lapse. And that's our Nether hub completed, or at least the very beginning of it. I think this one turned out pretty well. Unlike the Nether portal build, which was very much an improvisation, where I didn't have any like predetermined planned out materials or anything, this one I did a little bit of a sketch of in a creative test world, but a lot of the finer details like the tinted and the white glass windows were all added on last minute as just kind of additional bits of flair. I really wanted to have a build that was in a different style compared to my starter base and my enchanting tower, my farm and all that stuff, which are very much like a more rustic, Minecrafty kind of style. I wanted to make something here that was a lot more like abstract fantasy, like a clean and sleek feeling than our starter base, which is definitely not in that style. And you can see the main colors I'm using, right, are just the white and gray from the quartz and all the different kinds of deep slate we've got over here, with little bits of accent color, such as the yellow of the glowstone, and of course the red of these central like red carpety things branching out in all four directions from our Nether portal. Oh yeah, and if you're wondering why I'm using regular quartz and not smooth quartz for all these different quartz things, I accidentally crafted all of my regular quartz without smelting it first, got really upset, didn't want to go out and mining another like 5 stacks of quartz blocks, and then I just kind of rolled with it. Overall, I think this build turned out pretty well, minus the little bit of the screw up on my end with the regular quartz over here. If you're curious, this is how much netherrack I had to dig out of the earth in order to actually fit this thing in here, and I even used a lot of netherrack to like pave over these sections. You can see a lot of this is like artificially built up, but thankfully with our new picks, we've got insta-mining, so it really wasn't that bad. Okay, with that project out of the way, I was thinking we could take some time and do a little bit of Nether exploring. Ooh, oh man, I did not realize there was a basalt delta right here. I never really understood why, you know, magma cubes are obviously immune to lava, but magma cream burns up in lava. Kinda mysterious, just saying. This basalt delta is pretty cool, but this is a little bit too dangerous to do a lot of exploring of on camera. Just, you know, hopping our way over here, seeing what we can find. While we're here, I do want to pick up some shroom lights and of course some of those new Nether logs. Wow, look at that tree. That tree is really big. Oh, I'm gonna go mine it. Alright, that is definitely more warped wood and other random warped things than we will need for quite a while. And here we are, the Crimson Forest. Uber red, you know, it's like really, really red. Definitely gonna pick up some of the weeping vines around here. Ah, our first hoglin. Okay, you, my friend, are scared of the funny little mushroom, aren't you? Oh, is that a dead hoglin? Oh wow, look at that. Anyways, back on track. Get some of these nether warp blocks, getting some of that beautiful crimson wood. Found another hog buddy over here. I really, really don't need more food. What I do need is violence. If only you guys could jump a little higher, maybe I'd be a little worried, but you can't. Hey, what's the big idea, man? You're standing on my roof. Since we're passing through the central hub area, I figured I would show you guys something that I found just a little while ago. I figured that I would take the section of our nether hub that points directly into a big wall of netherrack and turn it into a mineshaft that we could eventually use to find ancient debris and get netherite gear. I got incredibly lucky and found an ancient debris literally just what, like 15-20 blocks from the beginning of my mineshaft? Like, hello? I haven't mined it yet because I wanted to do so on camera and show you guys the advancement. Like that. And there's 2 of them. Would you look at that? And there's 3 of them. What the heck? Oh my. Okay, with all that funky nether stuff out of the way, let's talk about our final project and our main project for today, making a moss factory which also doubles as a really good source of bone meal. Now of course this is going to be a little different because it is going to be our first real redstone project of the world. Cast yourselves back to episode 1. Remember we were up here on this mountain, falling in powdered snow, getting our first spruce wood. If you just look a little bit further, there is this is really wild, just big open air cave full of like pillars and stalactites and stuff. This could be a really interesting place to do sort of an industrial area, you know? It's a little bit out of the way from our starter base, but in terms of stuff for this episode, I was thinking that we could establish a moss factory like right in the middle, somewhere around there, right? I've done some work flattening it, clearing it out, and bringing over all the materials we're going to need to construct this thing. And just so you guys are aware, this design was originally created by a guy called Dusty Dude, but the video I am following along with to make this farm is actually by Shulkercraft. One last thing before we begin, keep in mind that I'm kind of just like an orangutan when it comes to redstone. I don't really know what I'm talking about. Let's jump right into it, and we'll see how it turns out. And that's phase 1 of the moss farm completed. What's going on here is that we've got some lava right above a bunch of water blocks, and what this is going to be doing is it always continuously generates stone, and then it repeatedly uses these pistons to push them out this way, and we have this like ever expanding band of stone. It eventually gets stopped by these furnaces, which are non-movable blocks. And this bit over here looks like a kind of redstone clock. The idea is that we trigger it with this lever over here. The redstone signal would keep passing through the circuit right here, and that would go and power these pistons, which then repeatedly push and pull and push and pull. Well, they don't pull because they're not sticky pistons, but they at least push and push and push as new stone continuously gets generated. On to the next bit. And here's phase 2. You can see we've got two main new components here. The first of which is this bit over here. These trapdoors are holding back water blocks, and these trapdoors are going to be opening up, allowing the water to flow across and push all of the moss blocks off of the farm into whatever sort of storage unit we'll be devising in a little bit. This other section is actually where the moss comes from. There's going to be bone meal in here, and this piston is then going to push down on it, so any sort of moss carpet or grass or whatever that generates on top of the block can get crushed by the piston and removed. That way you can continuously bone meal it. Alright, that was a nice explanation, but back on the grind, folks. Now, as for the downstairs storage area, I'm still making a couple changes. As you can see, this part has been changing quite a bit. It also definitely differs from the original redstone tutorial. In the original tutorial, all of the moss gets composted, half of the bone meal ending up in this chest right here, and the other half being sent up by this dropper chain all the way back up to go back into the farm. Now, I, on the other hand, want to actually keep a little bit of the resulting moss products. The beauty of moss farms like this is they actually produce more bone meal than they use. So once we give it that, like, you know, initial first kick of bone meal, it's actually going to be completely self-sufficient. I've got a stack of bone meal right here that we're going to try and put into the machine as sort of like a kickstart to get everything going. Not gonna lie, guys, I am a little bit nervous. This is the first time I've ever done any sort of redstone project on camera, and I mean, I followed a tutorial which gives me a little bit of confidence, but there is still a pretty big chance that like everything could just completely fail miserably. And I suppose it would make for some pretty good content, but it would still be a little bit embarrassing, you know what I mean? And go. Okay, we got some flashy bits, and not sure what's going on there, but that's fine. Wait a minute. What's going on here? Okay, the pistons aren't being pushed. The bone meal is not being dispensed. Anything? Alright guys, I think I messed something up because we got nothing so far. Give me a minute to get all this sorted out, and I'll get back to you guys when this thing is actually working. We finally got a functioning moss farm. Turns out there were not one, not two, but 3 individual problems preventing this moss farm from working. First thing that I found and fixed was that I had a redstone dust here that was actually supposed to be a repeater. Then I had a separate problem where this water was not flowing all the way over, meaning that all the moss was getting stuck like around here. That was fixed by me not realizing that I had not put a redstone dust right here. The third issue, I had the chest that was collecting the moss blocks underneath the first hopper. Now the way that hoppers work is that they will pass items to a hopper below them before a hopper to the side, which means that way more more of the blocks were actually going into the chest than I thought, and because of that the farm was not actually producing enough bone meal to keep running indefinitely. But with a little bit of relocation of the chest, now we should be looking pretty good. We have a good collection of moss blocks, azalea, moss carpets, seeds, which I don't really need, but whatever, and all that other really great stuff accumulating in our double chest. And lots of decoration later, the moss farm is fully realized into a steampunky moss factory. Let's take a look at it real quick. I know that I didn't show any of the actual construction of this build on camera, like in a replay or even just cutting or anything, and that is really just because I did this build entirely off the top of my head, like an improvisation sort of thing. I'm kind of incentivized to not really film anything until the entire build is done because I don't know what I'm doing, so there's a lot more uncertainty, you know what I mean? But getting back over to the build, you can see that I went for a kind of like a half silo design over here, reminiscent a little bit of my greenhouse design, where I wanted to have this big thing arching around like this, where if you look in the end here, this is sort of like an observation area where I've got some like decor with the light and the lightning rods and some smoke coming out of the furnaces and stuff, and you can look in here and actually watch the farm while it's running. Actually, why don't we go turn it on? Alright, that is a little bit better. Now we can actually see the farm in action. We've got this white stained glass pane here that we can use to look in at all the inner workings of the farm and make sure it's working properly and stuff. Occasionally an item will get stuck here, but the amount of lossage is so tiny that I don't think it really matters. Like, no one cares about that one seed. Making our way over here, you can also see that I've got these two bits of glass here, which are a little bit messy because, you know, they need to accommodate all the redstone in this area and stuff, but they also allow you to look in and watch the farm do its magic and stuff. We've got the shroom lights because they match with the copper. Coming around this way, you can see that I've bordered the entire outside with some stone bricks just to give it a little bit of contrast from the stony ground, and over here is where we actually turn the farm on and off. And if you're wondering what's going on with this little random like blob of moss over here, if we go ahead and make our way upwards, we can take a look at exactly where that's coming from. Up here you can see that all of the redstone components and stuff down there, all the wiring, have been encased in this big industrial box, and I've got two kind of like smokestacks coming out of the front. One of them is producing a whole bunch of smoke from the campfires. I've got some hay under there, and the other one is like overflowing with moss. I'm imagining like, you know, this farm down there is producing so much moss that decoratively speaking this entire thing is full of moss, and it's like being squeezed out of the top like a toothpaste tube or something like that. You know, any little thing you can do to add a bit of life or character to a build really goes a long way. Going back down over here, you can see around the back we've got a little bit of like a service area, so if we really need to get into the inner workings of the farm, we can hop in here, and you can see that the inside is, yeah, I mean, it's not exactly fleshed out, but don't worry about it. I really hope you guys like this design. This farm definitely took a while to get going, between the construction of the farm, all of the different issues that needed to be resolved, and of course making this entire outer shell. I think it was totally worth it though, because this thing looks pretty great. One thing that isn't so great though is that we've got all these really ugly stone pillars just jutting out of the earth in random places all across what is going to be our industrial area. But don't you worry guys, in the next episode, not only will we be taking out all of these pillars, but we'll be doing it with a very special guest. Keep an eye out for that, folks. It's gonna be great. So yeah, with all that being said, I really hope you guys enjoyed this episode of the 1.18 survival world. If you did, please don't forget to leave a like down below, and if you're not subscribed, please consider doing so. It really does help me out a whole bunch. Until next time, gamers, this has been Leon, and I will see you all next week for a very special episode. Take care, folks.